A1GP has had a facelift, so no wonder it's been in hiding a little while longer than expected. Today, though, the waiting is over as the series reveals for the first time a whole new look. Welcome to Circuit Park Zandvoort in Holland for A1GP's first race weekend of the new season. Today, it's qualifying. So, A1GP is back later than scheduled and with a smaller grid than anticipated here in Holland, but Season 4 is now officially underway. Designing, building, testing and distributing the new cars not been without its problems, which is why several teams will not be featuring this weekend. Regrettably, one of those is Team GBR. Their team principal, Katie Clements, explains why.
It's an absolute great shame. We were really hoping to be at Zandvoort and we were planning to, obviously, but we had an ambitious build schedule for all the teams, and unfortunately we're going to be one of a few teams that aren't going to be making it to Zandvoort this season.
They've obviously adjusted the point system so that takes that into account, which is quite handy from your point of view, but you've now got to go with race wins for the rest of the year.
No, not at all. I think we're definitely in contention for the title of the championship, and I believe that we are able to win it.
Obviously British fans have been looking forward to this weekend at Zandvoort and to see GBR out there, but sadly it's not to be.
Well, we would like to thank our fans for supporting us at this coming race, for coming to the race and for supporting us over the last 3 seasons. We would like to think that they'll be supporting us throughout the coming season on Sky Sports and coming to Brands Hatch in May next year.
So no GBR, and it would be a massive understatement to say it hasn't been easy to get the season up and running here in Holland. There have been teething problems, but as Keith Hewen found out at Snetterton on Thursday, A1GP's John Wickham is looking forward to racing the new car.
Well, it's very exciting. We're moving up on horsepower with the Ferrari engine. The car itself is a much more efficient package. We tested here last week and we were 3.5–4 seconds quicker than the previous car, so the whole thing forward. The reliability, we've done 8,000 Ks testing with the test car right across Europe, and everything's been fine, so it's looking good.
Now comes the tricky question, of course. Is the reason for the delays perhaps more to do with the technology of things that have been ramped up a little bit, and therefore things are a little bit more difficult to put together?
Yes, it's not a matter of being more difficult to put together, it's more difficult to run and to integrate the software between the various suppliers, and it has taken a little bit more time than we expected.
Zandvoort is a great place to start,
sure,
but you're still going to be short of teams there. I mean, give us an overview regarding that.
We should be, I imagine we'll be short of 4 or 5 teams. It's not a good situation for us, but it's where we are and we have to accept it. The stronger teams, a couple of teams from previous years who've been very strong, won't actually get cars for this weekend, but that's where we are, and it's just a case of push on really hard. We should be back here again in 2 weeks' time with the remaining cars before shipment to Chengdu in China.
Obviously from a UK perspective, a bit of a disaster for us with GBR not being in the first one.
Yes, yeah, there's a number of issues there which need to be resolved, and it's just not come together in time. I think over the next couple of days things will be put in place and everything will be good for the rest of the season.
So, just to clarify, the 6 countries not taking part this weekend are Canada, Germany, Great Britain, India, Mexico and Pakistan. For reaction to that and to run the rule over the changes made for Season 4, motor racing expert Tony Jardine and A1GP test driver Johnny Kane. Tony, there has been a car build delay, as we know now, missed out on Mugello. We are, however, here in Holland. Was it a case of organisers just being a little too optimistic about what could be achieved in time for September?
Well, look, it's a new era, it's a new chapter, and you could say, well, they bit off more than they could chew, but 11 months to design, to build, to integrate, let's say, new chassis, new engine, new suspension, new tyres with Michelin and so on. It's a very tall order, so they should be congratulated getting so many cars to the grid. But the teams that you've just mentioned, how disadvantaged will they be? Even though the points system allows them to catch up, how will they be disadvantaged by the situation? What will be any reliability issues for all those cars that have been built so quickly?
Some teams disadvantaged, but others perhaps can turn this into their advantage, Johnny. Those teams are on the grid who are racing amongst a smaller field this weekend.
Yeah, that's right. They're obviously going to have another race weekend's mileage and that knowledge that comes with that. They've got a good chance to really get the car working before other teams get their hands on it. And I think you can see Team Netherlands fastest in both the sessions so far, and that's the local knowledge and the fact that they've had the car, probably one of the first teams to get the car coming through, I think.
For news, by the way, who is in the driving seat for their respective nations this weekend, you can take a look at the bottom of your screen there and just to keep an eye on that for that information. Let's talk about Team GBR, one of the teams, disappointingly, that aren't involved this weekend. Obviously, that's a big disappointment, especially considering how well they performed here last year, Tony.
And also how well they finished off the season at Brands Hatch. You know, they had a first place, a second place, and they're on the cusp. And then you really want to be able to start the first race of the season. Not having the car for them and not having the team completely together does mean that they're going to have a big rush and a huge testing session before they get to China. So I hope John Wickham will compensate the teams that have missed out, give them some testing time so they can go and have a level playing field when they get to China.
There is a new car powered by Ferrari. Let's just take a look at it. And Johnny, you're one of the few who's been able to drive it. Just tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's a fantastic car. The engine is very smooth, very powerful, and the car itself is quite a step forward from the previous model, especially in high speed. A lot more aerodynamic downforce, and I think that's where the experienced drivers are going to come into their own. The less experienced guys who haven't maybe been in a car with that amount of grip are probably going to find it difficult to actually get to the limit at the start, and I think the older guys can take advantage of that.
Well, let's get a check on what is different about the new car from the previous one. What we can tell you is it is faster, 600 brake horsepower versus the old 550, which means more power in the power boost, an extra 30 brake horsepower, more torque, much greater downforce, new brakes, carbon fibre ones, and new tyres as well. Michelin supplying those. It's not just the car that's changed since last season. Some of the rules have too. Take a check on that. Qualifying sessions have been reduced from 15 minutes to 10. The sprint race has been increased in length. The points allocation has been reduced. And mandatory pit stops also been introduced. The feature race, by the way, does remain the same. Championship points awarded to the top 10 finishers with a bonus point to the nation who sets the fastest lap. By the way, for Zandvoort, qualifying will just be a single hour's session. This is because of the late arrivals of some of the teams to the circuit. The fastest lap times of that qualifying session will determine the sprint race grid, and of course the sprint race result this weekend will decide the lineup for the feature. That's just for this weekend, a one-off. Plenty of problems, as we said, for the teams to cope with, but the drivers, well, they're looking really forward to driving the new car. Keith Ewan caught up with 3 of them at Snetterton during testing last week.
I've done a couple of runs and the car feels good. We're just working a little bit on balance, setup with the car, with what we can do at the minute. But first impressions are very good.
It's beautiful. It's a very nice car. First feel was good. I think it's a very quick car to drive. It's around a GP2 level car, and power is beautiful. Brakes are perfect, and I'm looking forward to that season.
It's a really, really good car. Relative to anything else I've driven, it's right up there with a GP2 car or World Series in terms of grip and downforce. It's really, really very impressive. It's got a lot of power in the engine. Obviously, one gets used to that fairly quickly. It's the cornering speeds and the braking capabilities that take time to get used to.
Well, let's say it's a quick car. It's very nice to drive, very sensitive. and it's going to be physical. So looking forward to that.
This car, you can really feel the downforce in the high speed. Medium to low speed, it's not really much different, but in high speed corners you can really feel a big difference in downforce and overall grip.
See how they get on in just a few minutes' time. We're almost ready for our first taste of A1GP this season. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, though, live qualifying from Zandvoort. There's a team who's looking to impress. Welcome back to Zandvoort, Holland, for the first qualifying of the new A1GP season. The late arrival of Brazil, China, as you can see there, France and Portugal, has meant that teams have been unable to shake down their cars. So for today, just to bring you up to date, only qualifying will be a 1 hour affair. No restrictions on the number of laps each car can complete. Their best times will determine the sprint race grids, and results of the sprint will determine the lineup for the feature. Tony Jardine and Johnny Kane alongside me in the studio. Tony, we've talked about the new car powered by Ferrari. It's more sophisticated than the last, that we know, but can the series remain as competitive with that the case?
Well, that's a very good question, Georgie, because as you've said, the level of sophistication and engineering in the car, and particularly the aerodynamics, mean that the car is going to be that little bit more difficult to drive. And I think that the time that it's taken to build as well suggests that. But if it is very aerodynamic and it's chucking out a lot of dirty air, we'll find out quite soon whether the car behind can get up and actually overtake. The idea of the series is that novice drivers as well as experienced drivers just experience raw power with little aerodynamics, and we have lots of good racing. We've got to watch what they do on the straights. If they can still overtake everything, then my fears will be allayed.
Johnny, qualifying has just got underway. It's a 1 hour session, this a one-off. It's not going to be the case throughout the rest of the season, but it is the case for today. What do you think team approaches will be like over the next 60 minutes?
Well, I suppose it depends on how much mileage the team's already got under its belt. For some, it'll be a glorified test session, getting as much knowledge as they possibly can. For the likes of Netherlands, who know the track well and have had the car running for quite a while, their aim will be to try and set down a good lap time and hope that nobody can beat it, and try and save the tyres for the remainder of the weekend.
Okay, well, without further ado, let's get the qualifying underway. And for the first time this season, let's join our commentary team of John Watson and Ben Edwards, who'll guide you through it.
Four races. Talked to him this morning as well. I have to say he didn't look quite as in form as I've known him in the past. Don't know whether he's concerned about something or just whatever. But the thing about getting into a brand new racing car, you've got to make the car work to suit yourself. And if you can't do that, then often that leads to a driver, well, I don't know what the problems are, or I can't put my finger on it. But pretty much everybody who's sat in this car, from the moment they let out of the pit lane, but in particular through the quick corners, they love the car through the high-speed corners. The stability and the levels of downforce, they say, are way beyond anything that we've had over the previous 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. They are loving the car. The engineers who are preparing the cars love it too. It's a lovely piece of kit, basically. You can have a look around it, and the detail on it is absolutely lovely.
Well, it's a little jewel of a race car. It's not a customer car. It is a bespoke A1GP car, designed and manufactured by A1GP down in West Sussex. So it is really very much an in-house product. Of course, that in itself is also providing some of the difficulties. You can't just ring up an outside manufacturer and say, send us along so much. You have now got to make all these parts. You've got to provide them for yourself.
That's right, yes, and it's a huge build program. But they've managed to get these cars on track here today, and that really is quite some achievement when they were running late. But here we have Malaysia on track at the moment, for example, Farouz Fauzi. Remember, this qualifying session is being run to a different set of rules to the standard session. It is the clock ticking away in the top left-hand corner of the screen. They have the 1 hour session. They can come out as many times as they like. They have 2 new sets of tyres, which they will probably use towards the end of the session, but they'll want to get quite a few laps in before that, just to really get the feel, try and develop the car a little more.
Well, let's look and see what Farouz Fauzi does on this, his first flying lap. This morning his best was a 1:26.8, so is he going to get close to that, or is he going to improve upon it? Well, he's outside of it's going to be 28, 29, 1:28.9.
Yeah, in fact, they're all getting quicker as they cross the line. 1:28.0 from Ireland, who's the fastest of the bunch across there. And Dave O'Neill, the team boss for Team Ireland, team manager there, keeping an eye on the times. And good to see that Niall Quinn is there too, the rookie driver. He hasn't got a duty this weekend. There's Charlie Kimball crossing the line for Team USA, goes 4th quickest initially. I was just saying, rookie drivers, they may be here, John, this weekend, but actually, because it runs Zandvoort only as a 2-day race meeting, there was no rookie running this time.
No, and I think it's very sensible, because of the limited running, to give the incumbents the maximum amount of time that they can in these brand new cars. And it's not just simply the car itself, it's about getting yourself into the car, you know, seat fittings, getting the driving position the way you want it, getting the support in the car. We're going to get a lot more drivers complaining about stiff necks because the G-forces are higher, and that puts a further premium on getting your drivers precisely in the position in the car that they need to have control, but to make most of it, as New Zealand goes across the line and goes 6th quickest.
Yep, so that's a reasonably good start. Ireland quickest at the moment from Monaco and Italy. Very early stages, of course, of this 1-hour qualifying session. Team Australia out there. John Martin, who had plenty of experience in A1GP last year. He crosses the line as well and goes 7th for the moment.
So really, John Martin making up for the last time that occurred this morning when he made that pretty fundamental error and slammed the car down the barrier. But watch Switzerland come back into the pit lane, or are they going to go down? They've been out and gone back in again. So Neil Yarney, who came here yesterday, wasn't sure if Switzerland were going to be running, but circumstances have them here in the car. Neil, big smile on his face, again desperate to get it behind the wheel of this car and find out what it's capable of doing. And well, he thinks if we can get this car to work the way we made our former car work, we've got a great chance of retaining that crown.
Fabio Onidi, new name to A1GP, but he's been impressing us this morning so far for Team Italy, both in dry and wet conditions. He's been going very well, and look at his times at the sectors, looking fast here.
Yes, he's just a 10th of a second down in that first sector. So this young man from Italy, really somebody other than Fabio Nonini, I mean, I didn't even know his name.
Well, he's been racing in the Euro Formula 3000 series. He's had a couple of victories. He's leading the championship in that. He's won at Vallelonga and at Valencia. He's leading Nicolas Prost, in fact, who's also here this weekend as rookie driver for Team France. He's only 20 years old, is Fabio here, but he's done a lot of karting. He's raced in Formula Renault in the UK. He's also raced in Germany in the past as well, a couple of years of Formula BMW. So plenty of single-seater experience. He's got the big car experience from this season in Italy. He's well prepared.
Yes, and also from the moment we saw him going out on track, he looked comfortable with the power, with the downforce, with the whole scene, and he's in fact 3rd quickest, 1:28.133, just over a 10th of a second slower than this man, Adam Carroll for Ireland. Now pretty much everybody will have gone out on the tyres that they used this morning. They've got 3 sets of tyres available for today, and that includes this 1-hour qualifying session. The one team that may be slightly handicapped, as I mentioned slightly earlier, was the Netherlands, because as France is out, indeed different colours this year too. No white to be seen, certainly not in the predominance that we have had in previous years.
That's right, so Team France on track, which is great. They as I say, are one of those teams that really had to burn the midnight oil to be here. I don't think that's going to be the last evolution of how we'll see that car and its livery, but France on track. Loïc Duval, definitely a championship contender.
At least it's not another white, blue and red car. We've got a lot of white and red with a bit of green here, the Lebanon. Daniel Morad, you might have seen Daniel Morad last year when he was actually a rookie for Canada, but he is of Lebanese birth, and because he never raced, he is entitled to drive for the nation of his family's heritage.
Big opportunity for Daniel here, because Lebanon are yet to score points in A1GP. As we know, they've come close on several occasions, but Daniel Morad really has an opportunity. He's got the abilities, the talents, and he's a determined race driver as well. Look, he's using the car. Oh dear,
my
goodness.
Well, there we go. Well, that is airy, scary stuff. I mean, that is just again an error, just inexperience, just driving too quickly, too soon, and again getting your car up in the air like that. We did see that happen last year.
Yeah.
Somebody else got up in the air and really had a long trip and ended up in the barrier at the top of the hill just before turn 8.
Yeah, well, that was he got away with that. There, did Daniel Morad. He had a spin this morning. He had an off in testing, so he's got to calm it down a little bit. Here's the man who went off a bit more spectacularly this morning, and again through that section of corners, in fact, but it was wet, and he did put a wheel on the white line, and that's what got him into trouble. Now he's in the dry, and John Martin will want to repay the hard work that the team have put into to get that car back out again.
So we've got traffic ahead of him, and that's catch that car. So John Martin on a run, currently quickest lap 1 minute 29.6. And what did he do? He didn't really get much of a run because he was off in the wet before he had a chance to set an established time.
Absolutely. So he's just taking things a little steady. He's behind the Korean car there, which does get out of the way. And our new team, Team Korea, the two new teams, of course, Korea and Monaco. And it's Jinwoo Hwang who does a good job of keeping out of the way of Australia as he gets a little more used to his car. And John Martin comes through now the Ari Leyendijk corner onto start-finish straight, opening up the power of that 600 brake horsepower Ferrari engine, and he's going to come across the line.
That lap was compromised for John Martin, and he wasn't quite sure whether Korea were going to stay on the left-hand side of the track or not, so he compromised, and he actually lifted off before he got through those final two turns to give himself a very good opportunity to drive through that final turn as quickly as possible and go on to complete another lap. Italy up to third place, 1:20. Well, that's in fact just the time that they recorded a little bit earlier in the day.
So Ireland still fastest in qualifying here at Zandvoort, the first qualifying session of season 4 of A1GP World Cup of Motorsport, the brand new cars, but the Netherlands has just shattered what was the previous best time. Jeroen Bleekemolen's gone out there and he's done a 1:25.996 to go 2 seconds a lap quicker than anyone else has so far achieved.
But this morning he actually did a 1:25.387, so he's still a best part of half a second away from his time this morning. But of course the track's been used for other events. There's a big support over the weekend here, so the track is coming back to these Michelin tires, and Michelin, the new tire partner of A1GP in this 4th series. So a lot of changes for the teams and drivers to adapt to.
Yes, indeed. New cars, new colour schemes for us to get used to as well. New drivers, as we see here, in the shape of Jinwoo Hwang. He's 25 years old, from Seoul in Korea, and he does seem to light up the rear tyres a little bit, get the back end of the car moving around a little more perhaps than is ideal, wasting time going sideways when he wants to be going forwards, and he runs a very wide line there up at Ari Leyendijk.
Yes, I think that's a bit too high. It's probably a little bit too dirty up there now that the track is dry, and well, you know, he's always learning, and he's gone out, he's got a lap 1:33.454. So, I mean, it's almost irrelevant the lap time that he's doing. All he has to do is try and get as much running as possible. And then when we get to the end of this 1 hour session with just 49 minutes of it remaining, if he is in a position to go out and do something special, let him do it.
Netherlands a bit quicker on that lap, 1:25.422. So 2 flying laps, way quicker than anyone so far for Jeroen Bleekemolen. That's a great start to their weekend, setting the pace this morning as well. He is so hooked up at the moment in whatever kind of car he drives. The reigning Porsche Super Cup champion, winner at Le Mans of his class, not as the outright race, but of his class in the Porsche Spider, and now in an A1GP car powered by Ferrari. He's setting the pace here on his home circuit.
I mean, you can really benefit the local knowledge that Jeroen Bleekemolen has. You could see the lines through the Hugenholtz hairpin, slightly different to many others, then up into turn 9. One of those corners that you approach very quickly. It's actually just a flick of the steering wheel and make the car change direction quickly, but then you've got to get the car settled for that sort of continuation of the exit of the corner into turn 10.
The car looking fantastic in its orange colours. They've gone back slightly to that more simplistic colour scheme, and it really stands out on camera, no doubt about it. And of course all the fans here this weekend will be cheering him to the hilt. Finished in 3rd place in the sprint race here last year, and was just off the podium in the first season that we were here at Zandvoort, which was actually season 2 of A1GP. Looked like he might win it at one stage, but the conditions just counted against him. But he does have tremendous support, and his name is right up there now with the big names of motorsport in the Netherlands with his results in recent years. Across the line he goes. That lap was about a 1/10 of a second off, but that was an impressive run of 3 very fast laps.
Yes, again, it's what you'd expect from Bleekemolen and from the Netherlands team here. It's a circuit, I mean, they know this circuit upside down, inside out. Jan Lammers was raced here before it was in its current form. And Jeroen Bleekemolen, as you say, with brand new tyres, interestingly, quite early on for Clivio Piccioni in the Monaco car, so he's going out to take advantage of the new tyre. Again, do they know something about weather? Have they been looking skyward? Is there rain that we can't see from the commentary booth? Is this going to be the smart move of this session, or is it just they want to get out now and get that information to continue the progress? Because with any race tire, when it gets a certain amount of running, it does eventually just wear out. So they may well have got to the stage where they think we're not going to gain any more with that set of tyres. Let's go to a new set, see how much difference it makes to the overall handling and grip of the car.
We've got a yellow flag out on track, so maybe that somebody's had a little spin.
Yeah, that's a very scary, quick part of the track, and it is Korea.
Yeah, it is Korea. Jinwoo Huang. Well, we've seen him had a couple of spins already today, and the red flag has been brought out as a result of that. Now, has he hit the barrier hard? He's obviously had a spin. Actually, he spun to the inside.
No, it's not. It's actually out of turn 10, actually.
Yeah.
It's coming out of turn 10, he spun. And that's that sort of silly corner where, yeah, as I mentioned in the piece prior, where's the apex? You're always looking for it. Now he puts the power on and then just seems to keep the power going down when the tail steps out, bangs the left front against the barrier, and the left rear gets a touch as well. And he's bent the steering arm, indeed, you could just see it. Now, if that's all the damage that has been done to that car, Korea will have gotten away with it very lightly, but
Korea there off the track, careering off the track, I could say. Tony Jardine, what are your views on this new driver in this series, and a new car too?
Well, and he's got some experience in Japanese sports cars. He has limited experience of this sort of racing, and this is the point that we've got to look carefully for, and Johnny's got to help us on. It's the difference between the qualified drivers, those that have experienced A1GP4 and GP2. This is a sophisticated car with a lot of aerodynamics. He made a very basic error, it looked like to me there, and there could be a gap between the haves and the have-nots in terms of experience.
Yeah, how challenging, Johnny, is it for the less experienced drivers in this series to come to terms with this new, more powerful car?
Well, it's very difficult. The conditions don't help today. The weather's obviously quite cold and it's been damp, so the tyres probably aren't up to full operating temperature. And the car has a lot of horsepower and no traction control. So, although it looks like a fairly easy mistake, it can happen.
Red flagged session, Tony. We feared that this may happen because should cars go off and actually create a problem where they need parts, it may be a real problem for the series to supply them.
I'll have to stop one of the other countries and say, "Oi, I need your bits. You're not going anywhere." This is it. You are under strain. And again, Johnny and I were talking before, when he was doing a lot of the testing, he had to be very careful, test the car to its limit, but by the way, don't crash it because we haven't got any spare parts. This is a situation that the 16-17 teams are facing now at Zandvoort, and all the time the fans are waiting for some entertainment.
Is with Martin Stone of Team Korea.
Martin, we've seen that Jean spun just now. He had different spun in the morning. What's happening?
I think it's just a bit new to him, really. He's never been to Zandvoort before. We only had 6 laps in the car at Snetterton on Thursday, so his experience is in Japanese GTs, not really in single-seaters, so there's a big ask of him this weekend.
He doesn't speak English very well, so how do you communicate with him?
We have some people on the team who do speak good Korean and good English, so we just make sure we go through everything really slowly and twice and just make sure everybody understands.
Thank you.
As Martin Stone of Team Korea was just explaining there, the driver really hasn't had too long to get used to this car, and we're going to see that time and time again, I would think, throughout this qualifying session.
Yeah, I think so. It looks like a very basic error, but as I said earlier, it's an easy thing to do, and you feel so stupid when it does happen to you. You feel like you've really dropped the ball, and with the situation that all the teams are in with very few parts, it can totally ruin your weekend, just a simple mistake like that.
Most of those fans in those stands at the moment are going to be cheering on their home man, your own Bleeker Moland, been so good here in the past. He knows the track very well indeed. You expect him, Tony, to be a real challenger this campaign?
I do, and he himself has said we've got to seize this opportunity. He had the podium last year in the sprint race. He had the 3rd place here at Zandvoort. The crowd went absolutely potty, as you would expect. And they are fantastic fans, the Dutch fans. When they followed Jos the Boss around in Grand Prix racing, there was a huge number of travelling Dutch fans. Same thing is, they are starved of top-level international motorsport. And once a year, A1GP, the World Cup of Motorsport, coming to the dunes on the sea there, and you see them all. They just absolutely lap it up. They love it, and they are genuine fans. This is Piccioni you're looking at now as Monegasque, a genuine Monegasque, who's put together a team. He's running GP2 with Dave Price Racing. Very experienced runner. He could surprise a few people. Very tough to find genuine Monegasques that can actually race. There's only a few of them clinging to that little rock in the Mediterranean.
Adds a little glamour to the series, doesn't it, Johnny?
Yeah, certainly. This should be one of the better funded teams in the series, I think.
Yeah, I was expecting to see a name of a few of the casinos on there and a few of the old slot machines going off the back, but it is great to see that flag, and of course it has the full backing of the Prince as well. Prince Albert from Monte Carlo. They had a huge launch to get the team off and up and running, and it'll be good to see how they go this season.
Yeah, Australia have had quite a busy weekend already, what with John Martin spinning in the first session and basically writing off a rear corner of the car. They fixed it, they got him out for the second part of the session. They found other problems with the car at the end of that session, so that had to be fixed. You can see actually in the car, in the radiators, they're covering half of the radiator with tape, and that's just get the temperatures up. These cars designed to race not only here but also in places like Malaysia where it's very, very hot. So in cold conditions they're trying to get the temperatures up in the engine, and they'll cover half the radiator with tape, as you can see there on screen.
Now the weather in Zandvoort at the moment is fairly nice, it's fairly favourable. The forecast though for tomorrow, chaps, is that it's going to be very, very wet indeed. What is this new car going to be like in the wet weather, Johnny?
Well, fortunately for me, I only tested in the dry, but you know, we were talking earlier, the car has a lot of horsepower, it doesn't have traction control, so that's going to be, you know, a difficult thing to control for not just the sprint race, but for the longer feature race. You know, driving for over an hour in tricky conditions, it's very easy to make a mistake, and that's where the experience of the people that have raced over the last couple of seasons will play into their hands.
What it will do, George, though, is because the rain is a great leveller, because even though the cars have a much higher level of sophistication, a much higher level of ground effect and aero on the car itself, that will to an extent be neutralised by the rain, and as it's a great leveller, you will find there'll be incidents. People who shouldn't be up the front might get up towards the front, so it will produce a lot of excitement. But again, the teams are prepared. They know it was going to be wet dry. Most of the races that we've seen in A1GP at Zandvoort, the season opener, traditionally have been wet or dry, and that's when you really see the skill of the drivers, and that's when I love to watch them performing in the wet.
Okay, thanks chaps. Let's take you back to the track for the remainder of this qualifying session, then it's just about to restart.
This display green light on at the end of the pits, and this qualifying session restarts with just under 39 minutes to go.
So Paris Farsi for Malaysia, one of the first cars, in fact, well, not quite the first car, going to be down at the bottom of the pit lane. Ireland's going to get ahead of him, New Zealand following, and this is the frustration I'm sure that Monaco and Clivio Piccioni will feel, that suddenly red flag, different set of circumstances, different game plan now got to be considered. Will he come out again, or will he let these group of cars that have gone out on the track do a couple of 3 laps and then think about going out at the point they may consider returning to the pit lane?
Ireland's second fastest currently after their initial run on a 1:28.0, and I would think that Adam may well be able to improve on that on this his second run. Olivier Panis there with Team France, and Loic Duval in the car. We saw that car out on track briefly early on in this session, and hopefully we'll see him coming back out for a concerted attempt to put in a quick lap. Talked to Olivier very briefly, John, just during the break between the sessions this morning, and just like everyone else, he loves the car. He says it's he really loves this piece of kit. I said, Loic hasn't been able to sit in this car until qualifying. Did you ever have that experience where you had the first time you sat in the car was qualifying? He said, no, I never had that, but it's a racing driver has to do. Did you do it, John?
Of course, of course. Everybody has to do it at some point. 1977, Argentine Grand Prix. First time I sat in the Brabham Alpha was going out of the pit lane for the first practice session.
There you go. So it's been done before, it'll be done again, I'm sure.
And I did lead the race for a number of laps.
So there you go. So look, and I wouldn't put it past Loic Duval doing the same, actually. We know how quick he is, we know how fast he can be. Depends whether Team France, the former champions in A1GP, can get on top of this new car quickly. Now, let's watch Adam Carroll. He's going on to a lap here, not on new tyres, and he's pushing it pretty hard into Tarzan.
Yeah, it didn't look quite as smooth around the Tarzan hairpin as one would expect. A bit of a threepenny bit, sort of a little bit of correction mid-corner and then on the exit of the corner as well. Again, I put that down to the fact that track temperatures are low, ambient temperatures are low, and whatever, even though these teams got tyre blankets to keep the tyres warm, the tyre temperature drops away pretty quickly once they're taken off, and it's going to take, I reckon, the best part of 2 good hard flying laps to get to the point where you will then feel the bite and the grip from the tyre, which will enable you then to go that bit quicker.
Yeah, that was a big sideways moment. Look at this.
Yeah, he just simply broke traction to the rear, and that's an indication of track and air temperature.
Yes, lots of power and not enough temperature in the tyres, and that's what you get as a result. So he's got to pick himself up from that, but he's doing so quite well, he's backed off actually because he's got that car ahead.
Well, Adrian Zarg's pulled over to the right of the track to let the Irish car go through at the same time as Adam Carroll backed off, thinking he wasn't going to get the good run out of this corner. This is turn 14, to take him down to the final 2 turns to either complete the lap, primarily to get a clean start and have another go at maybe improving on that current 2.5 second deficit.
The current 3rd fastest car is this one, the yellow and white livery of A1 Team Malaysia, and Faraz Fawzi now seeing whether he can improve on that 3rd fastest time. Don't forget, you can keep an eye on the times of all your favourite nations at A1GP.com with our live timing and scoring system, and you can follow every single lap if you want to on the timing at A1GP.com, as well, of course, as to keep up to date with every story, everything that's going on around the series. On board here with A1 Team Monaco and Clivio Piccioni, doing good job so far. Currently he's 5th fastest, so sort of middle of the cars that have actually set a pace so far.
On the new tyre, we don't think anybody else, we've not seen anybody else as yet go out on the new set of tyres, so watch and see. Certainly closing up to the car, we can't quite make that car that's ahead of us who it is, but certainly has closed it up by, well, almost 2 seconds in the space of what, less than half a mile.
Yes, right up behind the South African car.
Adrian Zarg, you wouldn't expect that at Zandvoort, but Adrian, he has not looked to be the man who we know is capable of putting the car on pole and winning races here over the previous 2 years, something he seems to be not comfortable with.
Yes, not quite at ease, as you say, as he has been at Zandvoort in the past, and maybe somebody else for the first time is going to be on a pole position here.
This could see Monaco leap from 6th, potentially, certainly, well, Italy's now gone 2nd, just by 1.2 seconds. I suspect that this lap, if it concludes as the first part of it is done, we'll see Monaco Ireland 24.7. Well, Monaco, I was going to say, could go 3rd, but Ireland has leapfrogged everybody and Monaco goes 4th.
So Ireland set the pace, 124.7, Monaco 4th, the quickest. Graham Taylor there on the pit wall. A lot of
Lebanon, 3rd quickest.
Good effort, Daniel Morad for Lebanon, 3rd fastest. So the times are beginning to drop. Still plenty of time left in the session. 34 minutes of this one and only longer qualifying session that we've got in A1GP just this one weekend. And Team Ireland fastest at the moment. And now we're going to see a few more cars coming out trying to match or better that time. Here comes Australia, and here comes John Martin.
Well, we saw Adam Carroll having that big wayward moment on the exit of the Hugenhulst hairpin bend, and that was because of tyre temperature, track temperature, ambient temperature. Having now got the temperature into those tyres, that's the result. 0.662 faster than what had been a 2.5 second advantage that the Netherlands had over Ireland is now a 0.6 deficit.
This is going to be interesting as well, John. Reigning champions, Team Switzerland here. Neil Yarni on a new set of tyres, we gather, and therefore this could be an interesting lap, but he's had much less time in the car than some of the others he's competing against here this weekend. First time out, and it was this morning.
Yes, but they've got Neil Yarni behind the wheel, and he's developed into a very, very strong driver, both physically and mentally. They've got James Robertson engineering the car on behalf of Switzerland, and that partnership of Yarni and Robertson was such a strong one throughout the 3rd series. And of course Neil Yarni, desperate to get into this car, delighted to have the opportunity here in Zandvoort. But let's look at the sector times. He's 0.8% off, but that would still put him, if he continued in this pace, up into 3rd place. Currently down in 12th, but they've only done what, 5 laps in total. He's on his 6th lap now.
Yep, still getting to grips with the car, still getting a feel for everything. They made their seat last night. He was here late as they made that moulded seat to fit him as well as possible, but he's just over a second off on the second sprint, about a second off Team Ireland's time, but it would still put him up in the top 4 or so.
Yeah, I reckon if he can run this lap off, he should demote Monaco, certainly put himself between Monaco and Lebanon, who are 4th and 5th respectively.
Let's see where he comes out as he comes across the line. Team Switzerland leaping up from 12th place. Yes, it is 4th, absolutely spot on. A 1:26.288, 1.5 seconds off that pace set by Ireland.
Now, can he go any quicker? He's got that one lap. He's got a second row of the grid start so far. France, by the way, just jump up into 7th place as Ireland get the car pushed down after going into scrutineering to make sure the car is in conformity with all the regulations.
Yeah, quick time back from Adam Carroll, so we'll see whether Jeroen Bleekemon's going to be able to respond, or is Loic Duval going to do something. As you say, he's popped up to 7th now for Team France. Man who's been racing in Japan throughout the summer season and therefore fully fit, fully ready for this. Lebanon also put in a quick lap. They've been pushed back to 6th now, but Daniel Morad showing that he's got good pace, and we are expecting to see that as long as he can control it. And here's Adrian Zaug down in 11th at the moment, really not looking at his most comfortable, but there's still plenty of time left in the session.
Just the driver and the car, for some reason I can't explain, don't look to be working in harmony.
That's right, yes, it doesn't look like the normal Adrian around the Zandvoort circuit, so for whatever reason, it just doesn't quite look at ease with things as much as he normally does here. So 1:24.7 is the time so far in this session, and just to tell you, we are what now, 2.5 seconds faster than last year's qualifying record, which was set by Adrian Zaug. It was a 1:27.3, so 2.5 seconds faster already, John, and I think we're going to see faster times than this before the end of it.
Well, I certainly think by the weekend, depending what happens on Sunday with the weather that stays dry as it is, or the forecast of rain coming in spoils the overall lap time performance. But basically, the more running that teams and drivers are going to get with this car, the more they get accustomed to making adjustments and getting the reaction from those adjustments, lap times, one would hope, would maybe tumble down, certainly into the 1:23 range.
Just over half an hour gone then in the one and only long qualifying session here at Zandvoort in the first round of A1GP World Cup of Motorsport. Currently the order sees Ireland on top, the Netherlands in second. We've got a spin for Hermanto for Team Indonesia, and that's a shame because he hasn't actually set a lap yet. He's still got the engine running, and hopefully he can rejoin. So he does. Got the yellow flags down there, and no problem. So Ireland fastest, Netherlands second, Italy third, Switzerland fourth, Monaco fifth, and currently it's Lebanon sixth.
I would accept that, but at the same time, South Africa were one of the first to get their hands on this car. They tested certainly at Donington. They had also a run out at Snetterton, so it's not as if they're strangers to the car. There's something that isn't clicking between Adrian Zaug and engineering, and they've got to find a way to work through that and exploit the potential.
John Martin just locking an inside front brake there. That was no real big deal, but the plume of tyre smoke off that right front as he used those carbon brakes to good effect. Charlie Kimball in the Team USA machine. Great opportunity this is for Charlie Kimball with the team Andretti Green now looking after this car. A chance for him to show what he can do perhaps, and he's won here at Zandvoort in the past in Formula 3, so he knows the circuit well. He's dialing himself into a big car pretty well.
Well, I tell you, he might know it well, but he was flirting with danger on the approach into turn 8, getting the left side wheels of the car right up against the grass verge, and that grass verge and the grass itself is absolutely sodden.
Yeah, so he's got to be careful. He's quite wide there as well, isn't he? Takes a wider line as he gets on the power, and a bit of opposite lock applied, turning into the left-hander.
Well, he's also got a bit of pressure because his boss this weekend, Michael Andretti, has turned up and giving a press conference, and he's very excited as we look down. And there's a
career.
Is that a problem, or is that just running very slowly?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Is that career? I'm not sure. It wouldn't be career because they're still being. I don't think
White
that car's
flag
being repaired yet.
Yeah, white flag being waved. Car on the inside of the track. So. Well, the car, in fact, is coming to a standstill, so the car is going to have to be removed some way. Whether this involves another red flag or whether the car can be pulled off safely or not. USA goes fourth quickest. Good job from Charlie Kimball. Fourth for Team USA, displacing Switzerland. Michael, he's pretty happy with that.
Yeah, Michael Andretti on the pit wall there. I think he'd be quite pleased to see that already. And yeah, little nod of the head, that'll do. It's Indonesia that was going so slowly. It's Satrio Hermanto who struggles to a stop there up at the last corner.
Yeah, I mean, he might have gotten around turn 16. So clearly he's trying to get somebody's attention. Tow me back to the pits, I think, is the message. But I doubt he's going to have much success.
There's our Korean driver. Yes, I said it might be Korea, but of course that car's still being repaired after the incident he suffered earlier on in this qualifying session. Still just under 25 minutes to go though. The yellow flag's up there. They may be able to recover that without going to a red flag.
I don't like the way that van is driving across the track. I mean, if a red flag is out, that's one thing, but with a yellow flag, people are still running at speed, not necessarily racing speed. Red flag has been shown, yes. I think that red flag could have been actually put out a little bit earlier. Certainly that truck, I don't think, should have been allowed to drive across the circuit when it was only a statutory yellow.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Blake Mullen will have seen that red flag. Hopefully the team will have communicated to him as well, so he'll ease off. And yeah, look at that, he's already backed off and he's going to behave himself. Dave Stubbs, team manager, I'm sure he will have got the message across to Blake Mullen if he needed to.
And I'm sure, as in the case of Monaco, just at the point when you're going to go out and do a run with a fresh set of tyres, or certainly try and make an improvement, to be brought back into the pits. It's just frustration. Also, it's lost time because the clock doesn't stop. 23 minutes and 30 seconds remaining in this session.
So, Blake Mullen heading back to the pits. Currently second fastest for Team Netherlands. It's Ireland fastest. Netherlands second, Italy third, USA a strong fourth, Switzerland fifth, and Monaco currently sixth, ahead of Lebanon, France, Malaysia and New Zealand. That's how the top 10 reads at this stage in the qualifying hour that we have here today. We mentioned Team USA, fourth fastest for Charlie Kimball. That is a very promising effort, getting the car and jumping in it. He did a brief run at Snetterton earlier this week, but like most of the guys, he hasn't had much running in it. And here, Michael Andretti here this weekend to announce the full involvement that they've got. Andretti Green really is a remarkably successful team in the States, and now an opportunity to show what they can do on the international stage. Let's go down now and hear, in fact, from Michael Andretti.
Michael, it's really great to see you here. You're enjoying your first experience in A1GP?
Yeah, it's good so far. A little cold. But other than that, competition's good.
And Charlie's doing absolutely fantastically in that car.
He's doing a really good job. He really is. We've asked a lot of him, bringing him in last minute the way we have, and he's really cool and just taking it one lap at a time and doing a good job.
You've got really exciting plans for the future with that team?
I think so. I think we got a lot to build on. I think this is just the beginning for us, and I'm quite happy that we're as close as we are.
Looking forward to putting Marco in the car later on the season?
I know he's looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I think he's going to have a lot of fun in these cars.
What's the differences between racing out in America and here? It is a different sort of race series, isn't it?
Yeah, it is different, but one thing about racing in the U.S., it is a little bit more along the line of a spec series to control costs, and I think this series is sort of close to that. So for us, we're sort of used to that type of thing.
Michael, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Very wet day. You were there, John, with the first day they ran the car, but thankfully the second day it was a bit drier and they got some decent running in.
Yes, and then Malaysia in fact got down to a time which was, in fact, it eclipsed the lap record from Ayrton Senna in that 1993 Grand Prix. It didn't actually match the qualifying times, but it actually exceeded the lap record, and Malaysia quite rightfully very proud of that achievement, with a very restricted amount of running due to awful weather conditions.
So Ireland fastest, Netherlands second, Italy a strong third at the moment, USA fourth, Across the line goes Faraz Fawzi for Team Malaysia and goes to fourth. Good improvement there from Faraz Fawzi, an experienced contender in A1GP and other top forms of international single-seater racing. And the team will be, I think, fairly happy with that at this stage.
Now, Adrian's out. Maybe he's just beginning to look like he's getting to terms and getting to grips with his new A1GP car, certainly running much wider through 15 and 16 than I've seen him do at any point. So is there an improvement? Yes, he's gone up to 7th place. He's now within 1.5 seconds. It's still a long way away from Ireland's time, but it looks to me like it's the beginning of that step forward for South Africa.
Yeah, he's got into that group now that if he found 0.2 of a second, actually he'd be up to 3rd. So suddenly he's now in the ballpark, whereas earlier on he just wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. You see a car on the racetrack, watch how the car's positioned, watch how the driver's allowing the car to run out to the exit of the corner. That's the signal that the driver is much happier and he's getting a lot more back through the car.
Now this could be one to watch, John. He's on new tyres here as Jeroen Bleekemolen, and we know how fast he's already been here today. He loves the track, he knows it like the back of his hand. He's on a real confidence roll, and it's going to be fascinating to see what he can do.
All right, do you want to take a bet? Can he get into the high 1:23s? I suspect if he gets a clear lap, no errors, but he's actually 0.2 of a second down, so maybe he's not going to get into the 23s.
No, that's not quite enough as it stands at the moment, but that's only the first sector.
Overdrove into turn 10, just a little bit too quick in, too wide on the entry, couldn't pull the car in because he knew if he did the back end, stepped out, and it did momentarily step out, get away from him. 59.666, that's the second sector time, 0.3 of a second. He's certainly going to retain. Malaysia second quickest, by the way.
Wow.
That's come from, where did that come from? We're following the Netherlands car, and Faraz Fawzi puts himself within half a second of Ireland's time, set some half an hour ago from now.
Impressive stuff, but here comes the Netherlands. May take that second place back here from Malaysia. It might not last that long. Let's just see if it's enough. Across the line he goes, and they do take second, 1:24.948, so Malaysia back to 3rd.
And he clawed a lot back in that final sector because he's now just under 0.2 of a second, so he made up in those, particularly those final 2 quick corners onto the straight, one would suspect, that little bit of extra time, so back to within just under 0.2 of a second of the Ireland time, with Malaysia now on the second row of the grid alongside Italy.
Yeah, good stuff so far. Australia. Lebanon's just come up to 4th. Good improvement once again for Lebanon. Daniel Morad has come up to 4th place to go ahead of Italy and the United States. Switzerland down in 7th place at the moment. South Africa in 8th. Monaco in 9th and New Zealand in 10th position. So Ireland on top, but not by that much now, as the time is gradually ticking away. Under quarter of an hour to go in this session. A little bit more cloud around as well, so just want to be a bit wary of that. I think it's going to stay dry for the remainder of this session, but we'll keep an eye on it and watch this second flying lap now for Team Netherlands.
If the tyres are working to, yes, he is 0.3, so that 0.3 would certainly see a low 1:24, and it was from here to back onto the straight and across the start-finish line where I think Bleekemolen has an advantage. These 2 quick corners, turn 15 the slower of the 2, but it's about getting the car positioned to get the sweep through turn 15, minimise the slide or the drift, and then straight on the straight, maintain the performance.
Is it enough to go? Yes, he goes quickest. It's a 1:24.213. There's a yellow out at turn 5, but that won't have affected that lap, and they are now 3 seconds a lap faster than they went in qualifying last year. That is a huge leap.
Yes, and I think that is real justification and testament to all the effort by so many people to get this new car, the new Ferrari engine, the Michelin tyres. It is, people have not slept for weeks, literally, to do so. And when you see your driver doing that red flag.
Now let's see what's caused the red if we can.
Oh, not again.
It's John Martin, Team Australia. He did this morning.
He's got a nose, I think. He might have just gotten away with the nose. Or did he even hit the nose? Out of turn 8, that's a big commitment corner. And John Martin not short of commitment, but he lets the car run wide. The rear got onto the gravel or the grass. Alan Jones's face, again, stoic, biting the lip. Doesn't want to say what he feels. 2 incidents, major incidents. Both occasions brought out the red flag. And with just 12.5 minutes of the session remaining, it's going to certainly lose the best part of 5 to get this car back.
Oh, you can just feel morale taking another dip, and it's hard work. It's been so tough for those guys, and they just did not need that. Meanwhile, Jeroen Bleekemolen, he's enjoying himself. A little wave for the fans and for the marshals because he's just gone quickest.
And of course everybody else who was preparing to go out, Adam Carroll had just gone out, though he's back in the pits again. So everybody who was running behind the Netherlands or ahead in the case of Ireland, will be desperate for this red flag to be returned and let the track go green.
Into the pits comes Jeroen Bleekemolen then, and on top at the moment. For how much longer? The time, of course, still ticking away. We're under red flag. Now this is where we do get a bit more focused, a bit more intense, because we are beginning to run out of time. How long will the red flag delay things as the clock continues to tick? We could be into a bit of a shootout in the final few minutes of the session. That's going to bring it alive as well. But at the moment, there's no doubt that the host nation is on top by a decent margin, over half a second faster than Team Ireland. Malaysia in third, and there you can just see the reaction he's getting from the fans. Great stuff from Jeroen Bleekemolen, and well, let's see if he can hold on to it.
And you know, it wouldn't be any bad thing if the Netherlands do start the sprint race from pole position, because you can guarantee you, even this pretty much sold out event, it's going to put a lot more interest on John Martin's car being pulled back. I'm not sure, I can't believe he didn't get away with it, but I don't know, I didn't see any body parts actually fly up in the air, and I think he just clipped the front of the nose. Yeah, but I mean, he didn't actually get, did he get the wing? I can't tell.
Yeah, no, the wing's still there. It may just, as you say.
I'm not sure the wing didn't get a bit of a tweak.
Yeah.
But I mean, to get away with the edges of turn 8, the speed you carry through the corner, and have only that minimal amount of damage, well, maybe the gods are shining on Australia here after all, in spite of all the efforts from John Martin to throw the car at the fence on at least 2 occasions that we have known about today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's catching him out. That's twice it's caught him out here today. It was in the wet earlier, but that was in the dry this time. Clivio Piccioni for Team Monaco, currently 9th. First time out, of course, in an A1GP in competition. And won't it be reasonably satisfied? I think there's probably more to come. There's the Korean car now being brought back to the pits in this interval.
Yeah, I think good choice to put the red flag. It was necessary in the case. The only wonder, where's the Indonesia car? Did it get towed back? We think it did. So a bit of a clean up around the racetrack, and we're going to probably have about 7 to 8 minutes, maybe, well, let's say certainly a clear 5 minutes. There's the damage to that left rear of the Korean car. And well, it's going to be a tense moment, because there's going to be a charge by everybody with the time that will be remaining, probably about 5 minutes before we go green, with Netherlands fairly comfortably in the lead by just over half a second from Ireland, but Malaysia right on the knockings of Ireland, with Lebanon directly behind them.
Yeah, it's good stuff already, and Team USA sitting in there, 6th place at the moment, just behind Italy. Look how close those two cars are, separated by only a couple of hundredths of a second. Bleekemolen out of his car now, having done an excellent run there. He's taken provisional pole position, but will he hold on to it? There's still a contest, certainly from Team Ireland. Ireland, I think, are capable of challenging that time on a really good new tyre run. We'll have to wait and see if they can. Malaysia not that far back either, so some challenges in prospect. And Lebanon on for what could be their best ever qualifying performance. Let's not talk too soon, but they're well up, a lot higher than they've ever been before.
Oh, I mean, outside of Graham Rahal when he drove for the team, I mean, this is by far the most impressive performance from Lebanon. And I mean, great to see nations like Lebanon, who traditionally have not managed to get into the top 10 on a regular basis, and have at times struggled, but to be right in the heart of the action, starting on the second row of the grid, I have to say provisionally, is wonderful.
So our man in the pits is Ben Costenduras, and he's caught up with the current fastest man, Jeroen Bleekemolen.
Jeroen, congratulations, what a stunning lap. Do you think that's good enough?
I don't know. I mean, there's still. I see Frans going out now, and he's doing a very impressive job as well, because he didn't run up until so far. But for sure, I mean, we had a good lap, but we have to wait, because there's still a few minutes to go, and I think about 3 or 4 cars have a real chance of taking the pole. So, but at least we are there or thereabouts, so it looks good.
So why then are you not going out again? No more tyres?
Well, I mean, I've used my set of tyres, so I can't go any faster anyway. And yeah, I mean, there's no point going out anymore.
So I guess you just wave to the crowd and make sure they're happy.
Yeah, maybe the crowd can help us a little bit, but yeah, let's hope we stick it on pole, because it would be great to take the pole position here. But again, I mean, we really have to wait, because people like Duval and others are also going to go very fast now.
Thanks very much, Jeroen.
Okay, thank you.
Well, he's going to sit and wait. I'll tell you what, he's done this a lot in Porsche Super Cup over this year on the way to winning his title. He is a very good qualifier, and he's very used to being able to get the best out of the lap on the new tyres and then sit back and see if anybody can beat him, and quite often they don't in the Porsche Supercup, and he may well achieve that here. But you just spotted, John, interesting, a car that we haven't seen on track just yet, just going out. There it is, the Portuguese car.
Yes, and that's one car that is slightly more easy to identify with a number of cars, predominantly with white on the chassis. But this is Portugal's green. It's a softer colour of green, almost like an Irish green, whereas Team Ireland's cars are very much more vibrant colour of green, with the red or the orange-red winglets and rear wing.
Yeah, so we should be able to spot that one reasonably easily. Philippe Albuquerque, great to see that they've got that car prepared and on track. They couldn't have left it much later, otherwise it wouldn't be in qualifying. And it does look to me as though there are a few nations that are not going to make it out in this qualifying session, but that will be able to race here on Sunday. It looks like China's going to probably be one of those, Brazil as well. I don't think they're going to make it out in this session, but we will see them running here in the race on Sunday. So still work to be done, but we've still got a battle as well for pole position. Netherlands on top at the moment. I'll tell you what, watch out for this young man, Fabio Onidi. Maybe he could challenge, certainly could challenge, I think, for first couple of rows, if not for pole position.
Well, there's certainly, again, a young guy from Italy jumps into A1GP, a lot more horsepower, well, let's say a lot more torque and a bit more horsepower than he's ever driven. And, I mean, I've been impressed. I'm impressed with what he's done. I think that Fabio Onini has been very, very much a star of the weekend, as I have been with Lebanon. Though we were much more familiar with Daniel Murad than we were here with Fabio Onini.
So first split, he's half a second down on the pace that's been set by Netherlands, but nonetheless, if he can sort of maintain that kind of pace over the rest of the lap, he could move up a little bit. He's in 5th at the moment, battling with Lebanon, Malaysia as well. USA's just behind him, so is Switzerland. That could be a danger to him. Neil Yarni may well be able to find a bit more pace, but let's just see what happens in the remaining 5 or so minutes of the session.
9/10 of a second down, and that's the second split. So Italy, they're 1.9 seconds down. I mean, if he could maintain that gap, he would put himself in effect ahead of Malaysia in 3rd place. Again, if he can finish on the 2nd row of the grid, 4th quickest, possibly leading the 3rd row of the grid in 5th, I think there'll be a good effort.
Just on an outlap, Team Switzerland has just set a new middle sector fastest time. Let's see what Italy does.
Goes 5th.
See, it stays 5th, in fact, so there's no improvement there for Onidi. But Switzerland on an interesting lap, because they did a pretty good first sector, but a very good second sector. Let's just see, across the line goes Switzerland. And, yep, up to 4th, and onto another lap that could potentially be even quicker than that.
Around the back of the circuit, South Africa and Monaco, Clivio Piccioni. So for that Monegasque team, so their times just looking to see Netherlands, New Zealand. New Zealand's got some quick laps in those sectors as well, so New Zealand on a run, and Monaco goes 3rd. Clivio Piccioni, first time A1GP, 2nd row of the grid, 3rd place.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. But New Zealand, as you say, also going well. Might see an improvement for Earl Bamber. He goes 2nd for New Zealand. New Zealand's just gone 2nd.
Young Earl Bamber's really done and delivered for Colin Giltrap, Team New Zealand, but back again to France. Let's see what Loic Duval can do. First time in this car, didn't get to sit in it really until we got here to Zandvoort this weekend. And a drive, no! Caught the curb on the inside, deflected the car way off to the left, and nothing other than the gravel trap to save him from getting into the barrier.
Oh, he did well there, didn't get it back out again, didn't he? He's got to try and clean those tyres up.
And you know, here's a driver who drives so smoothly.
Yeah, not usual to see Duval make a mistake, but yeah, he's up against it. He's had so little time in the car. Let's just take another look at it, John.
Yeah, he gets the curb, he runs too much of the curb, car starts to bounce, he has to put the lock on, which of course turns the car out to the left, but thank goodness a large run off there of gravel and brings the car safely back on track. Here's the man who's gone now 4th quickest, because Netherlands and New Zealand, Switzerland still in 6th place.
Yeah, Switzerland just completed another lap but stays 6th. Ireland still in 3rd. We've got 15 cars now have set a time, because we've got Portugal have put in a time, but they are slowest because they're still running the car in, basically. But at least they've got themselves on the timesheet. Monaco back into 4th place. It's now Netherlands fastest, New Zealand 2nd, Ireland 3rd, Monaco 4th.
Yeah. And we've now got South Africa. Well, they have improved, but they're in the 7th position.
So, dying moments now, 2.5 minutes to go. What can Ireland do? Adam Carroll on the attack.
Grab it by the scruff of the neck, drive the wheels off the baby, and come back down in 3rd place, 2nd row of the grid. Remember, they at one point had a 2.5 second advantage over the entire field. That's just disappeared. They now need to find the best part of 0.6 of a second to claw back that provisional pole and make it the pole for Sunday's sprint.
And even if they want to get on the front row, they've got to find a couple of tenths of a second to beat New Zealand, and surely a front row start has got to be their main priority here for Team Ireland. Up there in third at the moment, trying to challenge New Zealand in particular, and maybe the Netherlands as well.
1.5 seconds down to that second split. Well, where has the time gone? We thought this was going to be Adam Carroll's opportunity to go out and once again challenge for that pole, but this lap is going to see him remain at best in third place. He needs to watch out from behind because Monaco, Malaysia, Switzerland, South Africa, they're all there. The thing is, they've all probably used up the tyre. So third place, I suspect, secure.
Yeah, it does look as though most of the teams have used their new sets of tyres. Now, are we going to see any more improvements in the closing stages? I'm not too sure. New Zealand, of course, we know went second quickest, but I would think that has used the best of their tyres now, and they may struggle to improve on that. Certainly the second split point showing that he's not quite there, I think. On this lap, he's backed it off now.
Yeah, I think it's all over. I think he was been advised, the team have said, look, you've done a great job. We've dragged ourselves up from the middle of the field, up to the front row of the grid. Bring it in, Earl. We're going to put it to bed, give it a nice tuck down, and go racing on Sunday.
Australia stay 11th at the moment. John Martin got that car back out again, so he got away with it. Malaysia might improve. Let's just see if there's any change across the line. No. Oh, yes, he does. Third quickest for Malaysia.
Knocks Ireland out of the top three, down to fourth. So Faraz Fawzi in A1GP once again. Now, watch and see what happens to Portugal. They've only done, literally, this is their fourth lap all weekend.
That's right. Across the line goes Albuquerque. Well, he stays slowest at the moment. They're still bedding that car in. Blake Mullen's smile is getting bigger. He thinks he's done it. There are only 30 seconds to go, and I don't think anyone's going to challenge him.
Well, Ireland are on a lap. The flag hasn't fallen yet. And in fact, well, it's probably doubtful. There's 20 seconds remaining. Can he get from turn 15 to the checkered flag? And it doesn't look like he's going to try very hard. I suspect he's making his way back to the...
No, I think he's still trying. He's trying to beat Malaysia if possible. Let's just see. Cross the line. No, not quite enough.
Well, the lap was 1:30.9. It looked slow, and that's why I thought he's coming in. Adrian Zaag for South Africa down in 7th place, but he's back into the pit lane as well.
So for the first time in A1GP history, South Africa is not on pole at Zandvoort. It is indeed the host nation that has done it. Team Netherlands have taken pole for the first race of season 4 in the brand new cars. 15 cars out there challenging, but it's the Netherlands that came out on top. New Zealand, a brilliant second place for the youngster Earl Bamber, and Malaysia, a fine third place for Team Malaysia for Faraz Fawzi, and that will surely delight the team. They've had a couple of pole positions in the past, but their best qualifying effort last year was 8th on the grid, so that really is a boost to them. Ireland have to settle for 4th place, but what about Monaco? Great effort from Monaco, 5th fastest on their A1GP debut, and I think they've got every reason to be well pleased about that. Portugal just finishing off their laps, and in fact improving at the end, up to 13th place for Portugal. It was worth getting the car out. They've gone ahead of Indonesia and Korea, and Ireland about to head back into the pits. We aren't, I think, going to see any more improvements coming around to take the checkered flag. Netherlands on top. Is Ireland going to be anywhere near beating Malaysia? They're looking for that third place, remember? Yes, he's done it! He's taken third in the last gasp, but Blake Mullen has taken pole position here, and it's pole for the host nation. And just listen to the support that he's getting. What an achievement on pole for the first race with the new cars. Team Netherlands are on top. New Zealand will start on 2nd place, but Ireland in the last few seconds of that session, after the checkered flag had first been shown, have grabbed that 3rd place. Malaysia pushed back to 4th. Monaco remain in 5th, with Switzerland 6th ahead of South Africa, Italy, USA and Lebanon. Well, a very interesting session and some good performances in there. Let me just tell you that Team Lebanon have also recorded their best ever qualifying effort with 10th, because 11th was their previous best, and there they are. They've now qualified 10th with new driver Daniel Morad. So another little bit of history being made, and the fastest lap here, 24 1:04.2, over 3 seconds faster than the existing A1GP record. Let's just take a look at that result then. Blake Vollen takes pole from New Zealand's Earl Bamber. Ireland will be up there with Adam Carroll, Malaysia 4th. Monaco, the new nation, in 5th place, ahead of reigning champions Switzerland. South Africa, pole all the time in the past here, but only 7th today. 8th for Italy, 9th for USA. That 10th place for Lebanon, ahead of France, Australia and Portugal. Portugal grabbing 13th towards the end. And then Indonesia and Korea. Brazil and China unable to get out in this qualifying session, but they will be out for the races here on Sunday. And we'll see what Filipe Guimarães and Ho Pin Tung can do with them.
So the first qualifying session of the new A1GP season is over. Everything up and running and looking good in Zandvoort, particularly your own Bleek Molen. We'll get to him in just a moment. But first, welcome back to Tony Jardine and Johnny Kane, who are alongside me in the studio, watching on that dramatic action. Netherlands, Team Netherlands, we thought that they may do well here. Great performances from their driver in the past here, Tony, and he's proved he can do it again in a new car.
He's had the most time in the car. They got theirs early. They've tested at Snetterton. They've done a great job. But as we look at him going round now there, this is his home track. This is his home race. He's fueled by the fans that give him the real Dutch power there. And Jan Lammers, the ex-Grand Prix driver and sports car star, is in charge of that team. And we mustn't forget people like David Stubbs, the guy that I work with at Williams. He was in charge of Williams management there. Again, it's a great team and it's a fabulous start for them. But can they convert that into victories? Well, you know about his driving skills.
Yeah, Jeroen and I were actually teammates for 2 years in a Dutch team driving for Spyker in sports cars, and he is a very good driver and can turn his hand to many different types of vehicles, as we've seen with A1 at the moment and Porsche Super Cup champion this year. So I think he's had 3 or 4 pole positions in his A1 career so far, but only 1 win, and I think this weekend he obviously wants to change that.
Let's just pause for a moment and talk about a team in New Zealand, away from the drama of what's happening with the Netherlands, because quietly and subtly Earl Bamber came in there at the end with a second finish to what he was doing in qualifying. He's 18 years old and he's got such big shoes to fill with Johnny Reid as well.
No, hold on, you're upset because your man Johnny Reid is out. He's been punished for not winning the championship when he was so near yet so
We're
far. We're
ruthless in this series.
Ruthless. No, I think New Zealand had seen the fact that Bamber did a great job as a rookie. He has limited experience, but he got a certain amount of experience with the Asian V6, and he's obviously young talent that they want to bring through. So fair enough, they're giving him a chance, but what a chance. He came from nowhere, put in that lap and got up to second place. I think there's a huge prospect there for New Zealand and a fresh young talent who's really going to set the cat amongst the pigeons.
And in the dying moments, the man who impressed most was Team Ireland's Adam Carroll. What did you make of his showing today?
Yeah, I mean, Adam's obviously a fantastic driver. He's been a Honda test driver for Formula One before, and you know, he doesn't mind conditions like this, cold weather, tyres not fully up to temperature, the rear of the car moving around, and you know, Adam can control that sort of thing. He's a very good driver, and I think you know, a good driver to lead the team this year again.
I think that's important though for Ireland to make a great start. They had a very slow start last year. They ended up with 7th in the championship, but they ended up with a win in Mexico, on the podium at Brands Hatch. Adam, I think he's very, very talented. I just wish he wouldn't go so hard all the time. He really pushes the equipment so far and then makes a little mistake or whatever. Great raw talent. One of your lot, of course.
Yes, a few years younger than me, but from pretty close to where I'm from, and yes, good to see Team Ireland doing well.
Yeah, well, look to see what he does tomorrow. What about Faraz Fawzi of Team Malaysia? Because he was consistent throughout that qualifying session, and a driver that's put it out there and said, to be honest with you, it is a big physical challenge, this new car.
Exactly, and that's the thing. I put a note against that because, you know, it's the best grid position, fantastic position for him. He did Asian GP2, and he said this car's going to be really, really physical. He's been average, he's been getting better, but this shows amazing improvement from this young Malaysian, because he's been in the shadow of Alex Young for so long and he's not being able to get his chance. He had a slight opportunity F1 testing, but he's grabbing this with both hands and he's really, really improved. I'm impressed by that.
What did you make of the way that Neil Yarni sort of built up his confidence as that testing session went on? He's a past master in the old A1GP car. What do you think he can do in the new one?
Well, I think you could see today that the people who haven't had many laps in the car, even great drivers like Loic Duval, he just makes a slight mistake, puts the car too far on the curb, and all of a sudden he's in the gravel. Same with Gianni, great driver, but until you actually get comfortable with the car, it's going to be difficult to get to people like Jeroen, who obviously are good drivers as well and have had the extra mileage.
A word on the debutants, Monaco and Korea in the mix. What did you make of the Monegasque entry?
Well, we did talk about him briefly when we were looking at it, because Piccioni does have experience. He's a businessman as well. The tough job for him is he's joint seat holder of Monte Carlo and he's the lead driver. Now that's a tough job, actually leading it. And here he is, Clivio Piccioni. I've met him a few times, chatted with him, very nice character, great guy, very committed. But he's managed to pull all this financial deal together, get it together at the last minute. And here he is doing a great job and keeping calm in the cockpit despite all his managerial worries as well. Impressive from him, and I think royalty in Monte Carlo will be very impressed.
Motor racing royalty as well in the form of Michael Andretti, who was in the pits a little bit earlier on for Team USA. Green Racing involved, of course, this season with the USA car, and we learnt today that Danica Patrick is also going to race this season, so that will be exciting. So a new car, new rules, and some new locations as well. Here's a check on where A1GP plans to visit this season. It all kicks off this weekend in Zandvoort, Holland, with a smaller grid than anticipated at the Dutch seaside resort. A full lineup will feature in Chengdu, China on November the 9th, one of 4 new tracks for Season 4. A fortnight later, and the series is back at a state-of-the-art Sepang International Circuit in Malaysia before the Christmas break. A1GP starts 2009 in New Zealand. The scenic Taupo the setting for the 4th race weekend of the season. Then it's a street race for the first time in Jakarta, Indonesia. Before a trip to Johannesburg to the Kailami International Circuit in South Africa later in the month. March sees A1GP make the journey to Mexico City, another new addition to this season's schedule. On the 12th of April, we're in the Algarve in Portugal for the penultimate race in the calendar. Before the season end finale on the 3rd of May, the venue being confirmed for that one, again, it's Brands. So lots to look forward to this season on A1GP, and it all starts on Sunday, of course. Race day from Zandvoort getting underway from 12:30 on Sunday. All the action live on Sky Sports 3. My thanks to Tony Jardine and to Johnny as well for joining me in the studio today. It has been an unpredictable start to the new A1GP season. Let's hope tomorrow the drama stays on the track. See you then. More sport, news and views at skysports.com.